Hello guys, and welcome to a new Steel Division video today by me, Vulcan. Today I have for you game 2 out of 2 games between Chickendew and Yurilove in round 4 of the second European tournament. Today we are going to be seeing Sainte-Mère-Église, and on the Allied side Chickendew has chosen the 101st Airborne. On the Axis side, Yurilove is using the 716th. So this is a very fun matchup with a lot of different units to usual. We don't see the 101st all that often, and therefore we will have something a bit different today. 716th we have seen before, but it hasn't really had too much success, so maybe Yurilove can change that statistic, but we'll have to wait and see. In terms of income, both of these divisions match up really well. In Phase A, they both have 100. In Phase B, the 101st has 5 less than the 716th, and then they match again in Phase C with the 120 points per minute. That is something that balances the matchup quite nicely. What imbalances the matchup is what units either side gains access to. So in Phase A for the 716th, they have B2s. And B2s are actually really good against the 101st in Phase A because the 101st has access to Locus, but Locus only have 3 front armor, whereas a B2 has 8 front armor. And that is a huge difference, so that when they're engaging at 1,000 meter range, the B2 has about 40-50% chance of penetration, whilst the Locus pretty much has none. And that's something that Chickendew will have to play around, especially if he is actually going to bring them in, which he is. He's got 2 M22s at the start. One big difference throughout this game will be the infantry. Of course, on the 101st Airborne, they have things like airborne rifles, airborne engineers, and both of those units are extremely good against Osttruppen, which is the mainline infantry of the 716th. So contesting the town in this setup will be futile early on for Yuri. What he can do, however, is if he starts to bring in more Lorraines, even Verflammens into Phase B, then that's a way that he can absolutely flatten the town and maybe take it back later on. But early on, I think it would be best for Yuri to maybe just put a few units at the edge on the back side of the town and then focus elsewhere with the support of the B2s early on. Let's have a look at the units that are actually going down. On the side of Yuri, he does have a Lorraine for the top side. He's going to be bringing in an IG-18 with 2 units of Osttruppen. For the mid, it's going to be a B2. Ahead of those, 3 Osttruppen and Command. On the bottom side, IG and 2 Osttruppen. Over on the side of Chickendew, it's going to be a couple units of infantry heading to the top side. These are airborne rifles with the Command. Airborne rifles heading down to the top side of the town. And in the town, it's going to be 2 units of airborne engineers with 1 unit of airborne rifles and Command. Airborne rifles heading down to the bottom side. 2 units heading there with 2 M22 Locus. 60mm mortar is going to put down smoke, allow these airborne engineers to get into position. They are going incredibly deep, landing right next to these Osttruppen. That is extremely dangerous. However, with the support of the 2nd Airborne Engineer unit, these units are being pinned down very quickly indeed. The Grenführer, though, have managed to get out of range. And, well, no surprise here. An absolutely futile engagement. Airborne Engineers get the job done. However, they do find themselves surrendered. 6 men they're surrendering due to the range strike actually hitting directly onto the airborne leader. So that worked out a little bit better than I expected for Yuri. Yuri's still got these 9 men sitting in the church. How long that's going to last, I'm not entirely sure. But either way, nice use of the Lorraine. Right on target early on. Maybe could have had that firing that little bit sooner if it was on the center road, just like straight off the bat, fire at that 1,600 meter range onto where you would assume the opposing forces would stop and find a pin that way. But still really good finding that pin onto the airborne leader, getting that surrender onto one of the airborne engineer squads. Now it's not that hard for Chickendew to just reinforce that, so that looks like it's what he's going to do. Yurilove's also going to do the same though. I can't help but feel that this is a bad decision though, pressing more Osttruppen into the meat grinder with airborne units. Meanwhile on the bottom side, airborne rifles have found the Osttruppen. They're going to come under fire from both the M22 and the machine guns from both those units. Osttruppen won't last very long at all in an engagement like that, will likely get surrendered. There we go, no command nearby. And that's a nice salient for Chickendew on the bottom side early on. So Osttruppen, I think without the support of more artillery, will be in a pretty tough spot here. You can just see how quickly the airborne engineers deal with those Osttruppen. The only way that Osttruppen would ever win potentially is if the airborne engineers used up all of their napalm ammunition. But then once those are dealt with, you still got to deal with airborne rifles, and you can see here the airborne rifles absolutely wrecking the Osttruppen because they do have 11 HE at close range as opposed to the 5 HE that the Osttruppen can present. Now the use of the smoke here from Chickendew has been really good, so I like to see that. But M22, that's going to be pressing onto the IG-18 here. IG-18 though should be able to make the M22 fall back. Yuri's trying to recover this bottom side now, bringing in a B2 to support a push with Osttruppen. Personally, I feel like a B2 should be on the top and bottom side already at the start of the game, and then just leave a skeleton force in the center. But Yuri is really pushing for it, using his Osttruppen to reveal the location of enemy infantry and then trying to hit them with the Lorraine to get rid of the disparity that would otherwise be present. The only issue is there's only one Lorraine. If there was two, it might work out, but in this case I feel like both these Osttruppen are just going to get pinned and absolutely annihilated. They won't get surrendered because the Grenfjord is here, but you can just see the amount of damage that they take. It's absolutely ludicrous, and losing units like that is not ideal. Now the M22, it has gone down here. That must have been the B2 here, finding the kill onto that M22. The rifles though, they took out the IG-18. Airborne rifles, they're going to be forced to fall back. Osttruppen, if they were a little bit closer there, may have found a surrender, but do not manage to. On this bottom side, M22 is going to get taken out by the B2. And this was a matchup I thought we'd have to look out for, and one that falls in favour of the B2, no doubt. Now these airborne rifles also being forced to fall back. No command down here, but in the town, that is 3-4 locusts, and they absolutely swarm that B2. That B2 goes down. Got to be very careful with that placement though, because one or two shells from these Lorraines could make all the difference. Just pinning down these tanks, Grenfjord jumps forwards, that's 4 surrenders. That would be absolutely ludicrous. Not going to happen today though. Grenfjord is dead, Osttruppen are pinned, and now it's just a Flampanzer B2 standing in the way, but the M22 swarm is starting to push forwards very aggressively. Panzerhaubitze Lorraines, there is now 2 of them, and that is ideal if the Osttruppen want to come in again, which it looks like they are. This B2 though, it's got a lot of work to do. It's up against 4 M22s, and it does go down. Critical ammo explosion just could not stand up to that amount of tanks. And yes, the Lorraines, they're going to come in and start trying to pin, but the locusts are fast, and that means they can reposition, avoid artillery very easily. Yuri's going to have to do something about that, and he has decided to bring in one of his Pak-37s. Those Pak-37s can definitely kill M22s quite easily. M22s do suffer at 1,000 meter range because they only have 1 HE on their main gun, but this is dangerous, allowing the Panzerhaubitze to be hit by the M22s here. It's really bad news. But the Pak-38, it is going to get into range. There is another Pak-37 coming in as well. Sorry, I called this a Pak-38 when it is a Pak-37. 9 AP. More than enough to kill 3 front armor. Internal fires forcing back one of the M22s. It looks like the Panzerhaubitze will survive for the time being, but that is a driver wound. Giving the Pak-37 time for another shot on target. Can it find the kill? Yes, it will. M22 goes down in the town. But let's have a look on this bottom side. Osttruppen are pushing forwards, B2 supporting them. And this is a really nice constructed push here from Yuri. Just a simple Osttruppen B2 combination can be very, very strong. B2, fantastic support for pinning down enemy infantry, killing off enemy tanks early on. But it looks like Chickendew here trying to invest in the M1 gun to deal with the B2, but the Osttruppen has the machine gun on target. If that M1 gun goes down, that is a costly unit to lose that easily. On this very bottom side, Osttruppen attacking the airborne rifles. M1 gun does hide itself. So it looks like Chickendew has managed to get away with that for the time being. B2 though makes short work of the airborne rifles. Panzerhaubitze Lorraines, they're getting behind that tree line. Osttruppen are going to try and make a push for it. But without the Pak-37s being further up, these M22s will be scary. It looks like though, the Panzerhaubitze did just kill one of the M22s with a HE shell, which is a nice little kill. But throughout all of this, +1 has been sitting in Chickendew's favour. And that is not good news for Yuri, because I feel like Yuri has the advantage early on, but not necessarily later on, because in Phase B, the 101st does gain access to M4 Shermans. And when I think of M4s and I'm playing the 716th, all I want to do is cry. And that's quite simply because M4 Shermans pretty much hard counter most of the units, if not all of the units, that the 716th can use. Now a nice shot there does hit the M22 ammo storage. That's a kill as well from the Pak-37. We also saw another HE shell land directly on target from the Panzerhaubitze and blow up the Lorraine. And that's just one problem with having such low armor, is that those HE shells from the 27 HE there can really do a lot of damage. B2 is going to be finding shots onto the airborne rifles here. That's the machine gun and the howitzer, getting the job done. Really, really nice. Got that a little bit of line of sight there. The 60mm mortar should cover that up shortly. B2 now in a bit of a precarious situation because an airborne rifle unit could move forwards and get into range with its bazooka. Either way, Chickendew, regardless of him losing all of these M22s now, is still in a very good position, and pushing onto these airborne rifles with things like Osttruppen is extremely hard. Now he does have the IG-18 in position to help him make ground, but actually taking it and securing it is a completely different matter entirely. This is where something like a Werframen would come in really, really handy, and since we've just moved into Phase B, Werframens should be available. Now the airborne rifles, they're making a push through this smoke. B2's in a pretty dodgy position here. The Osttruppen have been surrendered, and it's only a matter of time until airborne rifles do get into range. Best bet for Yuri, just drive past it. Just get as far away from these bazookas as possible, then face the tank in order to take on the squads should they get aggressive. But it does look like Chickendew is moving away from the B2 for the time being, and well, the B2 is going to find and kill these airborne engineers. That's a lot of damage being done at close range there. Lorraines, they are getting involved in the town once again. On the top side, Osttruppen are being overrun, but M1 gun, that's going to take out the B2 here. Trades its life. B2 goes down, Osttruppen go down. Osttruppen being pinned on the top side pushes the front line forwards, and that is now 60% in favour of Chickendew. That is a +2 that Yuri really needs to do something about. And it will really come down to B2s at the end of the day. I would like to see as many B2s as Yuri has, because it's very important that these do find ground for Yuri, whilst Chickendew has no armour on the field himself. But saying that, there is an M4DD on the way, And this is where things become really, really difficult for the 716th if they weren't already. Now, these Osttruppen, they can try and advance as much as they like, but the deeper they get into the town, the more likely they're just going to get defeated. Quite simply because these airborne rifles defeat them at both long range and close range, and then the airborne engineers have that flamethrower. Although this one airborne engineer unit here is only down to 1 ammunition for that flamethrower. Panzerschreck, that's going to be found on the bottom side. Bit of a careless loss there for Yuri. No need really for that Panzerschreck to be in that position if there's no armour that's threatening. Airborne mortar though, that's going to take out one of the units of Osttruppen. And you can see how hard it is for these Osttruppen to find ground without taking so much damage, because they do have that disheartened trait which makes them take more morale damage, and therefore they lose their combat effectiveness a lot quicker. Now Yuri hasn't retreated these Osttruppen on the top side, so the fact that Chickendew hasn't just ran forwards and surrendered those is a little bit interesting. But either way, here comes the M4. But lovely strikes there from the Lorraines. Hit the airborne rifles as soon as they reinforce. That artillery is going to continue. B2's now having a go at the M4DD. Lorraines coming in are actually going to pin that down. And this is very important. Wehrflammen also going for the shot. Look at this. This is what I'm talking about. The 716th artillery coming in strong. And now you charge your B2 onto the breach. Nah, you can't really charge a B2. It's not really fast enough. But if there was an infantry squad coming in when that artillery strike hit, that would have been ideal. Things like the Italian infantry would have been perfect. But still, plenty of damage done. Airborne engineers down to 1 man. One of the airborne rifles was killed off. Second unit of airborne rifles burned to death. And now only 1 squad left. Very, very nice job. Yuri definitely starting to get back into this game by putting pressure onto the town. But as I mentioned at the start, there was no real reason to contest the town until this point in the game when the artillery is set up, because there's so much more ground to be made on the bottom side with the support of those B2s. Pushing into the town, a B2 can only really fire up the main road and doesn't have many options for movement, and that's really shown throughout the game so far. Mustang is going to come in, pin down that IG-18 that was starting to hurt the airborne rifles here. Grenadiers though, they're going to be the choice for Yuri as he continues to contest the town. M4 force back once again. Really nice placement of shells from these Lorraines. I like the micro that Yuri has used throughout the game with these Lorraines. It's worked out very well for him so far, but it hasn't really gained him much ground. Yes, it's pinned down units that are quite decisive in engagements, but because Yuri's sort of attacks are one-dimensional in terms of just pushing into the middle here, it's very easy for Chickendew to play around, and honestly I wouldn't be surprised to see Chickendew just bring in a second M4, and that would just make things incredibly difficult for Yuri to do anything, because if the town is controlled by Chickendew, then so are the roads above it and below it, and that basically means if the M4 sat here in the mid dealing with enemy forces and then is needed elsewhere, it can quite simply fast move to the top or bottom side of the map very quickly to deal with other B2s or other units that are threatening. So that could become an issue, but Yuri is holding the ground for now, which will prevent Chickendew from doing that. Second M4 is on its way. There we go. That, however, is going to be heading to the bottom side, since there is a B2 now accompanying 2 units of Grenadiers in a push down there. So this is pretty standard. Double infantry tank. This is kind of your bread and butter when it comes to like a straight up tank push supported by infantry. You generally want a couple of infantry for every tank that you have, because then you're able to move forwards through, let's say, buildings or tree lines and forests and sort of sweep them out and make sure there's nothing there so your B2's safe. In this case, not really much that infantry can do about this M4, so the B2's forced to face that. Ideally though, the B2 should just get out of there and try and help out on the top side where the M4 is not. But at least Yuri is holding this ground in the town, but not elsewhere, and that is still providing a +1 to Chickendew, who is now over 1,000 points in this game. Now 2 minutes and 40 seconds left until Phase C. I don't believe Phase C will make too much of a difference since we'll be seeing the majority of the same units. However, throughout the game I feel like the 101st Airborne's aircraft and air presence will only continue to grow stronger. And that is something that Yuri will have to be careful of. He has invested in a Flak 36 to accompany his Lorraines. He's also got a Flak 36 in the mid. But other than that, I feel like his air defense can get overwhelmed very easily. Now, a big mistake here from Chickendew, he hasn't told his engineers to fall back. So they are quite simply sitting in the fire and burning themselves out. And that is 2 units of airborne engineers straight up killed by this Verflammen. Very, very successful strike there for Yuri because of that. Now on this bottom side, B2 is getting involved. Grenadiers did try and make some ground, but the B2, I mean, it can do a lot of damage, but it just hasn't done too much. It just keeps changing target whenever it pins down a unit, and that's not ideal, especially with an M4 on the way. M4 is going to come around the corner, try and engage this B2 close up. If that's a side shot, the M4 could go down, but the M4's got a huge chance here to find the kill. Right, will destroy, that's a start. B2's not going anywhere anymore. Chickendew's actually going to back off. Maybe allow that to reset, use a 60mm mortar to pin down that B2 a little more. But actually the 60mm mortar is completely out of ammunition. But what we can see has happened in the meantime in the town. The weaker infantry of Yuri is suffering against the more elite infantry that Chickendew has at his disposal. And well, the M4 finishes off the B2, Grenadiers go down, and that salient remains on the bottom side. So the B2 did eventually move up. It actually kills off one of the airborne engineers before it unloads, and Chickendew's infantry micro here is leaving a lot to be desired. Another unit of airborne engineers goes down. That's 2 more units of airborne engineers dealt with very, very easily indeed. Now B2 going to be engaging the M4 at close range. Got to be careful, the closer it gets, the more chance of a penetrating shot from the B2, when the B2 would otherwise be completely ineffective. M4DD though, going to be stopping, taking another shot, gets the job done, B2 goes down. No more support for those infantry, which will allow these engineers to try and make a little bit of ground back, especially with those 20 HE power grenades. The P51 Mustang comes in, bombs the IG-18, takes that down to 1 health. But at the moment, I believe Chickendew has quite a big opportunity to take control of this match. It's just a matter of preserving his infantry, which he doesn't seem to be doing too well. On the bottom side though, just getting these airborne rifles forwards with the support of the M4DD would be really, really nice. He's just ended up killing off the IG-18, now he needs to kill off the PaK-37, and he'll be home free on the bottom side. But Chickendew, he's invested in 356mm off map. That's going to take out a Panzerschreck in the town. If he can take out the Grenfeuer as well, that would be wonderful for him. The Italian infantry also taking a lot of damage from that artillery, and this is really, really nice. Chickendew can now move into that town quite freely with his reinforcing infantry and maybe sweep it out. However, Verflammen is on its way, and that Verflammen once again could do a lot of damage. Artillery being thrown both ways now, and it's something that will definitely cause a lot of casualties in this town, making it almost not worth either player really investing upon it. I think it's definitely more worth Chickendew continuing to invest into the town, just because his infantry can win a lot easier than Yuri's. But at this moment, with an advantage on the bottom side, I feel like this would be a better place for Chickendew to try and take advantage of that. VulcanHDGaming, however, thinks differently. Going to be pinning down those airborne rifles. Pins down the M4DD as well. VulcanHDGaming hit the center as well, with the one of the engineer squads, one of the new engineer squads being taken out. But once again, engineers are burning themselves to death. The airborne rifles have ended up unloading onto the fire as well, losing 2 men already. And this is just such a huge mistake. That's 4 men of the airborne rifles dead. That make that 5, 6. This is really, really not good from Chickendew. He needs to make sure that he falls those back. That is really, really lazy. And then off map, it does manage to kill off the Gunfjäder, but there is nothing left here. He's just like kicking a corpse right now in terms of Sainte-Mère-Église, which has been absolutely leveled. Just look at that. Artillery from both sides doing so much damage to the town. But one thing that is worth noting is Yuri hasn't found an advantage yet in terms of territory. And that's a problem. It's a big problem. Because Chickendew continues to count up his points, whilst Yuri, although it looks as though he's getting a grasp on the game, he is not finding any ground. And yeah, this just means that he will not have a chance to win. Now the M4DD coming up from the bottom side now for Chickendew is going to clean up these grenadiers. Also has a chance to clean up any other units on the bottom side, so for example these grenadiers. This M4DD there, that's under pressure. B2 is going to get the better of that. M3 howitzer, that's being brought in, can try and counter battery the Flak 41. He doesn't want those stopping his bombing strikes from range, and he also doesn't want them popping any M4s that happen to get in line of sight. So a nice target for some artillery, and both players really starting to invest in that. 2 M3 howitzers on the side of Chickendew, 2 Lorraines and 2 VulcanHDGamings on the side of Yuri. This isn't a good play style for either player at this moment, I don't feel. For Chickendew, I think I'd prefer the investment into Thunderbolt bombers or rocket planes. And on the side of Yuri, I think he just needs to get the ball rolling with these like B2s and just create like double or triple pushes in certain areas of the map. Find a way to deal with the M4DD, possibly like a HS129. That'd be really, really good. Or you could possibly VulcanHDGam it and then engage at close range if they're sat on a road, and you can get the B2 to fast move. But otherwise, you know, continuing the artillery game is fine, but it's just going to take so damn long. And the Flak 41 here, it does manage to get a shot through onto the M4DD. VulcanHDGam is going to pin down that M4. Panzer B2 though, that needs to get up close and personal. I want to see a fast move here, Yuri, not just an attack move, because what will happen is the M4DD just continues to fall back and then shows its front armor the entire time. Whereas if you fast move close, the armor doesn't become so much of an issue, and that's when you kill off the unit and start to make some significant ground. Either way, heading into the mid here, we do see 2 new units of infantry. Definitely something Yuri is focused on doing, using these pioneers to stop infantry units of Chickendew. And honestly, pioneers can do a really good job in this scenario. But you don't want to put too many eggs in one basket, otherwise you may find you get burnt, especially with this off map. There's a new off map coming in, and if that lands on top of this infantry, that could be absolutely devastating. Now the M4DD here, it's again under pressure. B2 managing to use its howitzer and its main gun to do a lot of suppression damage. Unlikely to find a kill though. This B2 engaging the M4DD on the top side. Again, B2's winning out. And those B2s, they are absolutely formidable. But they won't last forever. There's going to be a point when these M4s come in hot and just one-shot the B2s every time. But let's have a good look at this off-map. It's going to land right on target. A couple shots on these 3 units of Pioneers are going to do so much damage. Does it come about? No, it does not. Pioneers die. However, these other pioneers, they are going to remain alive with a large amount of men for the time being. On the bottom side, VulcanHDGaming did go for the M4DD, just to force that back for the time being. But once again, Yurilove is not finding ground. There is 12 minutes and 56 seconds left on the clock. And Yuri has a lot of work to do, because he has to get past the 1,361 points that Chickendew has built up to this point. Off map coming in once again onto the same place, and this is, I think, a pretty bad habit. You should never really off map the same place twice, because often what will happen, especially if you do it in quick succession, is the units that you did just off map have fallen back. For example, these 3 pioneers. They were here, Chickendew off map this, they fell back, and now they're over here because they've fallen back and they haven't been moved forwards again. So if you want to hit them with another strike, then you're probably better off doing it behind the initial place that you did. Now, one of the B2s, it does get taken out there by a combination of the AT guns and the M4s. They're going to get hit by the VulcanHDGaming and force both of those back. But this B2 is a sitting duck. It's been track wheel destroyed, and that is not good for Yuri. Because ideally, as those M4s fall back, you want to get that B2 out of dodge and use it elsewhere on the map. Either way, Yuri still trying his best to get back some ground here. Befehl Panzer 35S is being brought into the center to try and engage these M4s, but here comes a B-26 Beam Marauder. That's looking for the kill onto the Pak 40 there, and those bombs will likely do the job. That is 4 25 HE power bombs. Not really much escapes that. Yes, the bomb is going to take a bit of hits from the AA, but more like just a tickle. Pioneers on the top side, they're not doing too well for themselves. Forced to fall back, 1 man remaining. Marines though, we now see 3 of them on the field. That's quite something. M3 howitzer has been dealt with in the center. Is that going to make a difference to how much ground Yuri is making? I don't think so. Because Yuri right now, it seems as though he's relying very heavily on pioneers, and for those to be supported by this Befehl Panzer 35S or the B2. And this B2, that just got taken out on the top side. Things really starting to fall away from Yuri at this point. Best bet to kill something like this M4 right now, get the Flak 41 chained up onto the back of the SDKFZ7 and just pull it into range, take that shot, and hope for a one-shot kill. Otherwise, these M4s are going to continue to be a nuisance throughout the game. We see 4 of them on the map. That is probably all of the M4s that the 101st have access to as well. So Chickendew pretty much running at full armor capacity. I think the only thing that Chickendew may be lacking at this point is infantry availability in comparison to the 716th, because the 716th has one of the best infantry availabilities in the game. So it is kind of inevitable that it's going to happen. But here comes off map once again. Smashes these pioneers to pieces. The building's going down as well. This poor town getting absolutely wrecked. Befehl Panzer 35. That's going to be forced to fall back from the off map strike as well. Prevents any of these forces from being surrendered. Especially considering these Panzerhaubitze of the Lorraines are doing such a good job of pinning them down. I'm just trying to figure out the orders here. Either way, nicely done by Yuri. I think his Lorraine micro has been on point. I think what hasn't really worked out is just getting aggressive enough to find surrenders. But VulcanHDGaming once again going to try and force back both of those M4s, but it's just putting a band-aid on a wound at the moment, as opposed to actually fixing it. And these M4s, they're still going to maintain their combat effectiveness regardless of how many times they get forced to fall back. And here you can see it's just defeating the Pak 40. Yes, the Pak 40 may recover since it's hidden and be able to take a shot, but in general the M4 will more than likely get its machine guns on target first and just pin it down once again. Unless the Lorraines, of course, can save the day, which it looks like they're going to do. Pioneers in the town, they're going to go down as the other two squads fall back. Fusiliers, they tried to find the kill onto the M4DD, but couldn't quite find it. The Haftoladen needs to be very, very close in order to work. It's a magnetic mine, so you would have to be right next to it. In this case, it requires 100 meter from the Fusiliers, but not able to make it happen today. M10 does come in, got the 3-star veterancy from the nearby command, just absolutely annihilates that B2. Actually, that was the Befelpanzer 35, never mind. Still, got absolutely wrecked. Now B26B coming in. That is going to be trying to bomb the Pak 40. It has the 425 HE power bombs, so it should be successful unless this AA does manage to affect the accuracy, which it does look like it did. And the Pak 40 survives to fight another day. And the B26 is going to get shot down. That is 2 Flak 88s alongside 2 Flak 36s. Gets the job done. Really, really nice job. Verflammen also doing more work, killing the infantry in the town, or at least more of it. But Yuri still not finding that extra ground he needs to stop this +1 that Chickendew has now found again. 1,530 points in favour of Chickendew at this moment. And with 6 minutes and 40 seconds left on the clock, Yuri really has a mountain to climb. And personally, I don't feel like it's feasible for the 716th this late into the game to make enough ground to find over 1,600 points. And the reason I say 1,600 is because you probably need like plus 10% on top of Chickendew's score in order to sort of claim victory. So Chickendew would need basically 1,700 even points in order to find that, and that's quite a far way off if he wants to get a victory. Could still push for a draw, but really just not making too much ground right now. Yes, he's killed plenty of infantry with his artillery, and it looks like he might even kill this M4DD on the bottom side with the 88. He just hasn't capitalised. And the M4, well, that's going to get away. Pathfinders, they get taken out. And you can tell that Chickendew is light on infantry because he started to use the Pathfinders as close range infantry. And honestly, they're not that great. They've got 8 HE at 100 meter range. Still better than like Osttruppen, but it matches up with Pioneers. Now the B26B coming in. Looking for the bombing strike onto the 2 artillery pieces here, but does not find it. Instead, just going to be taking shot after shot from the Flak 36 as well as these 88s. And the 88s do love shooting at these big bad boy bombers because they're such a large target. But here comes some more infantry from Yuri. He is really determined to secure this town, hoping that Yuri doesn't do the same mistake here as Chickendew did and allow his units to be killed before they were unloaded. Looks like he's just about managed to get away with it, but that Italian infantry is going to have to run for the wins. Or run for the hills, that's for sure. Because they were taking a lot of damage. More infantry coming in on the bottom side. And more 88s on the way, look at that. Loads of 88s on the side of Yuri. But as he's building up all of these units, I just don't think he has enough time now to really make a difference. Just playing for KD at this point. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Yuri, for a second time, comes out positive in the KD versus Chickendew, but loses the game. And that mainly comes down to just priority and strategy. So in this case, Yuri, once again, being very one-dimensional with his push and heading for the center, which Chickendew has just been able to counter so easily. He countered it with the 3rd Fallschirmjäger in the first game, and then he's just countered it with the 101st Airborne in this game. And although the town is finally under command of Yuri, he's paid for it. I mean, just look at the destruction of this town. So just 2 airborne leaders standing in the way of the infantry advancement. +1 finally landing in the lap of Yuri. Only briefly though. Gave him a taste. 6 points on the board. But 3 minutes left. Chickendew now investing in an A8 Scott. And that is actually a really, really nice choice of unit to deal with this infantry aggression, because it has the 9 HE on its main gun plus the 50 cal. And then there's something that none of this infantry can deal with without the support of armor. Or just an 88. But we don't have either of those really in position to help out, so Yuri's just forced to fall back. The Verframen might be able to get the job done. The M10 and the M8 Scott are both open top, so the flamethrower or like napalm rockets might be able to get the job done. It does definitely depend where the rockets land. In this case, yep, M10's going to go down. It drove back into the flames. So, job done by the Verframen. 1 minute and 55 seconds left. 88 is coming up the main road. I'd like to see this 88 honestly just deploy on the main road near the church, because then it can shoot down at any reinforcements that come in, like these 4 M8 Scotts that Chickendew now has. If you had the 88 in position, you could just snipe those from a distance and they probably wouldn't be an issue. Bofers though, they're going to get hit by Yuri. He's going for a double strike onto this Bofers, maybe planning something with HS129s, but too little too late. Regardless of the fact it's now 54% in favour of Yuri, I don't think it's going to matter. And the only reason I feel like Yuri has the town is because Chickendew ran out of infantry. Anyway, that Flak 41, that did not last very long in the face of multiple M8 Scotts and the M4DD. So a quick kill for Yuri, or for Chickendew, sorry. On the very bottom side here, some more Italian infantry on the way. 54% territory lead for Yuri is actually quite nice. And if you can clean up this bottom side, then maybe he won't feel so bad. But at the end of the day, it's not going to matter, as after 25 seconds, Chickendew will be claiming victory. Lorraine's, they're not giving up anytime soon though, continuing to try and find shots onto these M8 Scotts. And you saw that can be effective, especially considering M8 Scotts are open top as well. Just like the Locust, they can be killed by Panzerhaubitze Lorraines. Well, Panzer 35. If that was not having to engage the M4, it could easily clean up the M8 Scotts. But there you have it. All of the aircraft come in at the end, but don't manage to land their strikes. 40 minutes it took, the full 40 minutes, for Chickendew to claim victory. And like I mentioned once again, Yuri with the positive KD, 2,515 kills to 2,290 losses, but lost overall. And it just comes down to strategy. He was trading very well. He was using the artillery very well as well. But if that was sort of put more into different sections of the map early on, I think he could have made a lot more ground, especially on the top and bottom side. There really is not much chance or much point in contesting the town against the 101st Airborne in Phase A. You're so much better off just waiting for those Verflamens. Anyway, kills. Airborne rifles really showing up, killing plenty of Osttruppen, as you can see. The 60mm mortar also claiming plenty of Osttruppen kills. But yeah, this is just shows the matchup so well. Airborne rifles just cleaning house when it comes to those Osttruppen. The M4s as well did really, really good. 356mm off map didn't pay itself off, but certainly did some damage. A little bit misplaced here and there, I feel. Something that Chickendew definitely could work on. In terms of losses though, look at this B2. Beautiful. In Phase A, these can do so much damage, and it's a shame that they weren't really utilised that little bit better. But the Lorraines fantastically used throughout the game. ended up claiming kills onto M22s as well as plenty of infantry. So nice micro from Yuri when it came down to these Lorraines. B2s also later on did damage, and then the Flak 41 claiming that B26B Marauder kill was really nice. But in the end, didn't really matter. Not enough ground made early on, and Yuri paid the price. So with 1,575 points, Chickendew takes the victory for the second game, making this a 2-0. Congratulations to Chickendew for winning this series. That's all for now. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.